Wow, that was a massive grind, but hello everyone and welcome back to Project Ozone 3, Mythic mode. That's a bit too close. So in the last episode, we finally got access to the ME controller by doing a whole lot of astral sorcery and pneumatic craft. And we left off last time by starting off a little bit of some auto crafting infrastructure. And in the beginning montage and in between the episodes, I've put a bunch of effort into expanding our infrastructure here to make sure that we can craft almost anything from scratch now. So we have a couple of different setups here, like the alloy smelters. They just have an interface here that splits the inputs between both the alloy smelters, and then they output back into the interface. And for the alloy furnace, we just have a conduit that extracts from the bottom, which I'm gonna hide with a facade. I didn't want to put a conduit here because I'm anticipating putting 4 alloy smelters around this interface. Then on this side, this is just one interface per machine. Most of these have been properly renamed, like this one is metallurgic redstone, diamond, and obsidian, and so on and so forth. And we also have the atomic reconstructor, which turned out really neat because the cables are actually over here and they're being facaded, so you really can't see it. I like it. And then over here at the oil setup, I added an interface here. Don't ask about where this cable connects to, I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, this is just supplying all of the dyes which go to the plastic mixer, and also the coal which goes to the thermal plant. And over here, this is the bulk of the automation, or at least the most important stuff, right? Like the empower here, we have all of the capacitors on autocraft now, including the melodic one which is in a slice and splice. And actually I wonder, can we request like a stack of these? Okay, so our CPUs are not big enough, but I mean we almost have all the resources. And the pressure chamber is also automated. We just have a pattern that goes into the crate, and then from the output crate we extract back into the interface. I'm doing these one stack at a time, although maybe I shouldn't do that for the capacitors. But and as I mentioned last episode, we also have an interface here that's constantly requesting silicon and redstone. And yeah, the circuit that we have so that we don't overproduce silicon is working. But also because we already have printed silicon and redstone in the inscribers at all times, we have the recipe only calling for like a gold ingot or the pure certus or the diamond, and then the output goes back into the interface. Actually, it's not going back into the interface. I need to put this on insert white. Oh, and before I forget, I also went ahead and moved the specter farm that we had at the old base. I moved it here as I mentioned last time. So it's still the same principle. Everything's connected with trim into a drawer controller, which is hooked up with an ender porcupine, and then that gets extracted into our main drawer controller here. This one is connected to the ME system with a storage bus. And then we also have a second floor here for chorus flower, which has a separate drawer controller, and then of course that's also ender porcupine here. And this is all the stuff that we get from it. And that's pretty much all I've done in between the episodes. Anyways, today though, I want to focus on some more automation. So I think today we're going to tackle some auto sieving and also be able to craft tier 3 seeds from mythical agriculture. There's some really good ones here like aquamarine. We also have electrotine as well, mana steel. And the only thing that's stopping us are the essences, because we actually need to get into neutral steel, which means we have to go through this entire chain of the first degree, the second degree. I think we'll also go to up to the 3rd degree, 4th degree. We can also do the 5th degree and the 6th degree as well. So yeah, we have a bunch of fun automations coming up, and I don't think over here is going to be enough space, so maybe we should start by expanding today. Yeah, let's go ahead and tidy this place up. And then I think I'm going to cover up this wiring space by just placing down some endstone. Yeah, we still need to fill out these 2 spaces, but I'm actually not sure what I'm going to put there. I guess we can set up a furnace here to automatically smelt the red alloy ingots that we have. And again, all we need to do is set up the inputs, input from the back, output to the bottom. Then we filter in the conduit. And lastly, we just request the red iron compound. Oh, that's really fast. I don't think this crafter is going to keep up, but it's fine. We have 60,000 buffer. That's okay. Okay, I think I'm going to make pulsating iron a passive process then. And we can even encode a couple patterns here for the simple alloy smelter. Okay, yeah, that was actually a lot more pattern encoding than I thought. But now we can auto craft alloy smelters from scratch. Alright, we'll place the alloy smelter there. And again, same thing, we just filter it and request the items. Cool, that's the pulsating iron on passive. I'm just gonna have to move all the stuff that's in the drives. Also, I'm gonna move the cobblestone drawer to be connected to our ME network because we have 6.4 million cobblestone so far. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna need any more than that. Alright, but now that this passive room is fully occupied, we're gonna have to expand. And I think right here is a pretty decent spot. And hopefully it turns out as cool as it is in my head. But we'll just have to start building and see. Alright, so this is the final build, or at least the setup for the machines. I still have to clean up some building around here, but I'm out of building blocks. So this is the layout of the machines that we're going to try and go for. And actually, I just noticed something wrong with it. These are not supposed to be here. Yeah, we need to have one more line in the middle and then remove or trim this outside bit here. I have to also do that for the other setups. But anyways, so if we look at the auto sieve outputs, we have 9 separate recipes that we can actually process. And I think I want to do all of them except for soul sand because like we can get this elsewhere. It's not too important. So yeah, that's what we're going to have. We're going to have 4 sieves. And then the setup back here is the thing that generates the inputs. And then the outputs are going to be processed here. And I think we can have 1 sieve for 2 inputs because if you look at the recipes, all of them are done in 5 ticks, which is super fast. So hopefully it should never clog up. But well, actually, I don't know. If that happens, that's going to be a big problem and I'm going to have to rework everything. But I'm sure we'll be fine. Oh yeah, and in between the clips, I actually got this formation wand here. And you can actually select multiple blocks to make it kind of like randomize them. And then it just builds to you, which is very nice for building these walkways. And speaking of the building, I actually tried to go with this double walkway design. And then up here, we have an above view, of course, of the machines. And I think it's going to look really cool once we fill out everything. So actually, yeah, let's get started on that. Yeah, first let me encode a bunch of these recipes from modular stuff. All right, that's all the patterns that we added. All right, now we just need an ME connection. And I think I'm going to reuse the same P2P here that feeds the passive hull. This right here should be the center. So we're going to go ahead and extend it here. And yeah, as usual, we'll have our output go into a dense cable and then 2 smaller smart cables. What? And yeah, I guess now all that's left is to actually gather up the machines for this. So I'm also thinking of using an auto dissolver here to produce the gravel and sand and whatnot. Yeah, this is pretty much the only automated way that I can see for things like crushed endstone and netherrack. I'm going to rename one of these pieces of paper to auto dissolver and then another one to auto sieve. And then over here, this is actually a cable facade so I can fit an interface. I guess can go into the storage crate. And then what we can do is have auto sieve be the output. Yeah, so the recipe will look something like this. And then we'll put this recipe in the interface that's connected to the barrel. And so now we can request this piece of paper and that basically says, oh yeah, it's telling us what we're missing. Those are just recipes. And hopefully now we can request an autosieve. Yeah, nice. But of course, we're gonna need 4 of these. So let's see. We're actually not missing much. Just some flux ducts and some tiny charcoal. Okay, that should be enough. And then we can just add a recipe here for the flux ducts. Now, can we request the sieves? Oh, our CPUs are not big enough. Yeah, can we request at least 2 of these? Okay, and then we'll request another 2. One more. Okay, and then another one. Nope, we have to wait. All right, and in the recipe for the sieve, I actually left out the item input and output because those can be modular, and I put in patterns for most of them. All right, I'm gonna do a similar thing to the auto dissolver, and then we'll be right back. Yeah, we'll put this in the interface, and can we request 1? All right, we're just missing a couple patterns. 1 second. All right, that's how many patterns I had to add. So now can we do it? Okay, I'm using Spectre Wood for everything, so this just must be a or dictionary issue. And then the mechanical components here, I have to manually craft. And actually, that's only for 1. Let's see how many we need for 8 of these, because that's how much we need. We're gonna need a little bit more cobalt and almost a stack of these mechanical components. Okay, but now it's not working again. Is it reading the... Oh, why is it reading the freaking speed upgrades as items? I guess we can't have blocking mode on this, but that's fine. I believe there's a config that lets me blacklist certain items from being detected by the blocking mode, so I'm probably just going to change that then. And I guess while I'm waiting for the electrotine stuff to finish, I'll go ahead and sieve for some more cobalt. Alright, so we're back. I'm starving. Don't worry, that's normal. And I think I sieved about 40,000 netherrack, so let's see how much cobalt we have. I'm actually kind of interesting. 1,700? 1,700? And actually, I think by now, yeah, we do have the sieves. Although, wait, we're going to need one more. I have to cancel the craft, yeah, because it thinks it's going to craft a piece of paper, but obviously that's not going to happen. And what are we still missing for the dissolve? Okay, we're just missing the mechanical components. Yeah, let me go grab those. We also have to think about the inputs and outputs, or the sieves at least. Yeah, I'm just going to go through these recipes and decide which output bus we're going to have for each one. All right, now we're ready to set up the sieves. So I just wrote down the amount of outputs for each recipe, and then I got the corresponding item output. Nice, there's the first one, and now I'm gonna build the rest. Alright, nice, the 4 sieves are in place. Ooh, the dissolvers are done. Yeah, now I can finish up the rest of this setup, so I'm gonna be doing that, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I went ahead and set up the 8 dissolvers, and I also have some conduits here, so now all we need to do is set up the logistics and the channels. And yeah, soon enough this will actually start working. So let's start with the dissolvers. I gave each one their own sink, and then we also get a byproduct of sludge. I'm just trashing that. So yeah, it's the same for every single dissolver. And I also connected the interface here. This one is going to be requesting cobblestone and endstone. All we need to do now is filter compressed cobblestone into the first dissolver. And nice, we're getting the output. We'll extract this on brown, and then this actually needs to go 2 ways. First into this impulse hopper, and I'll explain why we need to have an impulse hopper here in a second. We'll filter in the gravel, oh, like that, and then we need to lock the output. And this dissolver over here is supposed to be doing dust, but obviously that needs us to produce sand, so I think I'll do sand in this one then. And then we'll take the sand that comes out of here and make it into dust, and then the gravel input will come from over here. Alright, we're getting sand now. Extract this on brown as well. Alright, so now the gravel from this and the dust from this will be both sieved at this machine here. So all we need to do is also filter this into the impulse hopper. The impulse hopper only let these two go through once we had 1 stack of each. And we need this functionality because we're sharing 1 sieve for multiple inputs. Because of course the gravel is always going to be the fastest one that's produced. And that means this thing will get locked onto sieving gravel and we'll never actually get the outputs of dust. So now we can just output. Alright, now we just have to filter in these outputs into here. Actually wait, we produced dust over here, so it's going to be on this module. I want to keep them lined up. We have a drawer controller here, and then this is actually trimmed. We have a storage bus down there as well. Oh, and yeah, for the outputs of the sieve, we're going to extract on red. That'll insert into the drawer controller. And now we just need to fill in the drawers. Let's see how many outputs we have. So we have 7 outputs here, and then 5 outputs for compressed gravel. Everything will have a void upgrade. Oh, and because of that, I think I'm going to set this to extract only. The storage bus, that is. So yeah, there's redstone and glowstone, 2 things that we already have seeds for, so not much of a point. But niter is nice. And then of course we have the powders. These are going to come in really handy once we start doing the neutral steel stuff. Oh, and now it's sieving gravel, so we just need to get coal, diamonds, lapis. I think I'm going to switch the input bus that we have on all the sieves to the 1-slot version, because I am noticing that sometimes it locks onto gravel for a little bit longer than it should. So maybe having a smaller buffer is going to be better. Yeah, we have like 4 stacks of extra dust here that wasn't getting processed. Alright, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and switch the input buses on all of these. Alright, now we just need to do the same thing but for the other sieves. Oh, actually, and before I forget, let me also upgrade these drawers. Alright, cool. So I went ahead and set up compressed sand and endstone, and we get these outputs from them. Now, endstone is actually a bit interesting because we get draconium ore pieces from this. So what I did for that is I actually have an ender chest here, and on red we're filtering for the ore piece, and then that goes over here because I didn't really know where else to place it. But yeah, this ender chest is going to receive all the ore pieces. That goes into a compactor and then into a furnace. And the output is supposed to be going to porcupines, which is connected to the drawer controller, but oh yeah, I almost forgot. We need to have some sort of an empty drawer on the network. Let's check up on our other outputs here. We're up to 700 of these. That's nice. Alright, cool. Yeah, 1900 coal. This thing is working really, really well. Alright, awesome. That's one side of the setup done. And it looks really cool. I'm actually proud of this setup. But yeah, now that I have the principles down, it's going to be really easy to add these 2 ones as well. Alright, and check it out. Now we have a fully functional sieving setup that gets us pretty much every single resource we're ever gonna need. So this one over here is doing gravel and dust, which gets us all the basic ingots and all these other gems. And then the dust gets us mainly the quartz dusts. These are actually really nice to have. And I guess a little bit of extra blaze powder too. And then this one over here is sieving netherrack and sand. So actually most of the outputs that we get from sand are duplicates of over here. The only unique ones that we get is yellorium and zinc. And then the prosperity shard is here only because it would have looked weird if we only had 2 drawers on this platform. So, but yeah, the prosperity shard is actually coming in from the netherrack sieving. And yeah, netherrack also gets us some really nice ingots, mainly the cobalt and ardite. This is what I'm most excited for. And we actually can't automate netherrack and endstone unless we use mystical agriculture, which means we have to get into... Oh, that's a tier 4 seed. Endstone is tier 4 and nether is only tier 2. Oh wait, no, we have the starlight crafting altar. We can actually do this. We just have to go through the neutral steel stuff. But right now it's almost 2 a.m. I am super tired. I've been playing all day trying to get this set up. So yeah, I'm gonna go to bed and then we'll continue this tomorrow. Alright, so it's the next day for me, and I've made a couple of changes here to our sieving setup and also to the base. So first of all, our smelting setup here just wasn't extracting any ingots to the drawer controller because of the translocators. So what I did is I put a chest in between, and now this actually connects to some conduits and then goes into the ender porcupines. Yeah, now we don't have to deal with any of the having an unlocked drawer weirdness. Also, I realized we were missing a couple drawers here for the sand output. Yeah, we don't just produce zinc and yellorium from this. We actually get some more electro graphene and Certus quartz stuff. So yeah, the drawers are looking really cool now. I actually like it a lot. And it also looks awesome from the top as well. But yeah, then I also went ahead and whipped ourselves a little bit of a, just like a 9x9 here where we can automate our neutral steel. Yeah, because that's our next step here so that we can actually get some tier 3 and tier 4 seeds. Now, I did make 13 of each machine, but I'm not actually sure if that's going to be enough. So I guess we can make this guy the first degree. This one can be the second degree. Third degree can go here, and then fourth degree goes here. Now, let's see how many machines that's going to be. I definitely want to have 4 fluid transposers for the tier 1, since you need this for the rest. For the second degree, I think just 2 machines will be more than enough. Third degree as well, and then fourth degree is going to be slow enough to where we can literally get away with just 1. So I guess for these other 4 machines, they can go over here. Actually, I think I'm going to grab a few more magma crucibles. And I'm also going to need a lot more conversion kits. Let's get like 20 more. Yeah, I added recipes for these, and it's actually surprisingly cheap. Let's upgrade everything first. And so if we look at the neutral steel, we have to have some sort of a liquid, which comes from these thermal dusts, and then you just melt them down. We need to also be able to craft these. So that's why I brought myself some crafters. And this cable right here is kind of in the way, so let's move it down a few blocks. Yeah, alright, there we go. Now I can get rid of this. And I guess we can have the crafters on this wall. So that should be good. And then we'll have magma crucibles on either side. We're going to have 4 magma crucibles for each fluid. And now we have to think of a couple of things. Number 1, power transfer, which I guess we can have a bunch of energy cells for. Oh, a resonant energy cell can transfer 25k. Yeah, I think we'll have enough power transfer for this then. Also, the flux ducts that we were previously using are definitely not going to be enough. So I'm just going to make the upgraded version here, which we can then add signalum, and that's 16,000 RF, and then resonant, which is 25k. Alright, there we go. I cleaned up the building a little bit, added a roof, but the roof is a little low on this place. So yeah, I guess if we need more transposers, I'll just expand downwards. Alright, I also got some ender tanks here, and I'm going to color them based on the JEI colors. So pyrotheum is going to be yellow, cryothium is going to be blue, etc, etc. Alright, now that I have all the machines in place, I think I'm just going to set this up real quickly, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so a while later, we now have neutral steel of the first degree and the second degree. Right now, our bottleneck is just draconium, but I also noticed a flaw in my design, and that's the fact that we actually won't be sieving any of the sand unless we have endstone at the same time, and we also won't sieve regular sand unless we have netherrack because of the way that the impulse hoppers work, which means that we kind of have to rush the endstone and nether seeds first, but that's completely fine. So the way we're transferring liquids and items around is mainly via the applied energistics system. This one is requesting the stuff that needs to be melted down. And then back here we have an interface on top that supplies the items to these crafters. So everything in these guys we have on passive except for a couple of things. Pyrotheum is fully passive. Cryothium, we need to passive snowballs. Aerothium, everything here should be also fully passive. And petrothium, we just have to add pulverized obsidian. But anyways, after those things are crafted and then melted down, they get transferred into the ender tanks that I mentioned earlier. And then from this insanely spaghetti wiring that we have, and then we have an interface here that requested the chromium. So I did a similar thing with the inscribers where we extract with a filter on separate channels. So draconium is on brown, the first degree is on purple, and then this one is for the third degree, but I haven't filtered this because I want to first build a buffer of this, although we are out of snowballs as you saw earlier. So I think for now we're just going to use these frozen cores here that we get from the mob farm, although long term we'll just be using a glacial precipitator because this is literally free. And now that we have that, we should look into the nether seeds first. We could probably even put in patterns for Prudentum stuff. Oh, in this pack we have different tiers of infusion crystals. So there's the tier 1 crafting seed. And actually, is there any tier 1 seed that is probably good to have? I don't think so. Well, I used all of our mana, and we have 31 mana diamonds. We'll craft a bunch of these infusion crystals. And actually, I thought I had neutral steel on storage bus here, but we do have it on storage bus. It's just that we're out. Yeah, we don't have any more in the backlog. That's... Alright, then I'm going to turn off the fluid transposer here, and then we'll have to build up some more of this. Alright, I managed to scrounge up a little bit more first degree. Can we now... Yeah, get some Prudentum. We'll make this tier 2. Alright, there's the nether seed. We just have to 10-10-10 this. I guess I should probably have a thing to 10-10-10 the crops. Maybe even over here. That's not a bad location for it. Alright, so I proudly present the 10-10-10ification station Mark II. All we have to do is pluck down our seed, and then after a while, the 10-10-10 seed should appear over here. Alright, now while that happens, we also need to focus on getting the end seed, which is actually tier 4. And this one's going to take half a stack of the tier 3 neutral steel. So I'm going to start cooking that up. For now, I'm going to keep the tier 3 and tier 4 as a manual process, because obviously it's an exponential use of draconium. You need 3 of the previous tier every time. So we can definitely get very expensive very fast. It's not like we need too much of this. We'll just get enough for our seed and be on our way. I think I can actually set recipes for all of these essences, and hopefully AE2 will do all the math for me. So for just one of these, we need a whole stack of first degree. This is a lot more expensive than I thought, and then we still need some more essences here for the infusion crystals. Well, I think in that case, I'm just going to go to the end and try and mine up a whole bunch of draconium. Oh my goodness, finally. That took way too long. And we even have a 10-10-10 netherrack seed here as well. Alright, there we go. Now netherrack is automated. We just have to input from the top and output to the right. Or to the bottom, I mean. Alright, and then we add it in. Nice, yeah, we're definitely overproducing on netherrack. So that means the sieve should also always be working now. Anyways, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but the reason I want to get a digital miner here is so that I can go mining for the draconium much easier. Or pretty much any ore that we ever need, actually. Yeah, I'll show this off in case you've never seen it before. We'll place it somewhere central to the island and give it some power. I think the output is on the back. And now all we have to do, I'll enable silk touch, I'll enable auto eject, and now we just need to configure it. The radius will go as high as we can, which is 32. We'll tell it to mine from that Y level up to like 100. And then all we need to do is add an ore dictionary for the draconium ore, which should be like this. Yes, there we go. And if we start the miner, it's gonna mine up all of this ore right here, 170, and then it'll deposit it into the crate. Yeah, we can chunk load it, and I placed it in between two chunks. Hold it. Yeah, it's easy enough to move. All right, let's start it once more, and that should be going. But yeah, it's super slow, which is not great, although we can definitely give it some upgrades. Oh, but they're kind of expensive because they take enriched alloy. We'll need half a stack if we want to max it out, and our CPUs are not big enough. Great. Yeah, I'll just let this thing craft right now. Okay, cool. A little AFK later, we should have the enriched alloy. Nice. So we'll make 8 speed upgrades and 8 energy upgrades. All right, cool. We'll just apply these upgrades to here. And I actually forgot to chunk load this. Can you shift right click these upgrades on? No, not really. I think I can hear this thing mine. I never knew it made a noise. That's interesting. It's using 4000 RF, which I guess is actually not that bad considering the speed. And the only reason I'm silk touching this is so that I can manually fortune it. And I remember seeing something about the fact that you shouldn't use vein miner on this, because if you get really unlucky and get a fortune of only doubling the ore, then it's going to apply to everything that you vein mine. So I think I'm going to take my time here and mine these one by one. Yeah, we really do need to be min-maxing this. Yeah, look at that. From that one stack of ore, we have 8 stacks. Yeah, it was definitely worth it picking up the digital miner. Alright, I have 3 stacks of draconium ore now. Let's see how much draconium we get out of this. Oh, wow. We came out with a ton of stacks. That's 1000 draconium. Yeah, that is absolutely insane. Let's get all of this processed. And you know what? I'm even going to take out the downgrade from the first degree since we just need so much of it. And I'll stock 2 stacks of the second degree then. Alright, now all we're missing is some Prudentum essence so that we can craft the infusion crystal. And we also need to make the next tier as well, so that's another couple of essences. But yeah, there we go. And now, can we make Superium? We're missing 400 ingots. It's just that our Pyrotheum is not keeping up, it seems. I thought 4 melters would be more than enough. Well, one of the magma crucibles wasn't plugged in. That will probably help a little bit. We're almost there. Come on. The last one. Nice. I think we can do it now. And I definitely want to pick up the quest here, but it wants us to make a tier 3 crafting seed. Oh, which I guess we will have to do anyway if we want a tier 4. So we're actually going to need 4 more of the... Oh, no! Come on, magma crucibles, you can do it. Just these by themselves consume like 6000 RF, but the speed is still not that great. Alright, maybe we can do it now. Nice! Tier 4, and we also need some end clusters, which is purple blocks. That's easy, and with a little extra end stone, which got sucked up by the sieving setup, can get the end clusters, and then that in combination with some stardust will get us the end seeds. Alright, we'll just 10-10-10 the seed, and soon enough, we'll have a fully 100% automatic sieving setup that has no flaws at all. Definitely. And actually, I think with that, we'll wrap up the episode here. So yeah, today we've done major progress. And yeah, a few notes here. This episode took quite a while to produce. I think I started the episode around 64 hours of playtime, and now we're at 73. Wow, okay. Almost 10 hours of playtime. So yeah, hopefully by next episode, I'll have a bunch of tier 3 and maybe even some tier 4 seeds crafted. Yeah, things like ironwood, sulfur, HOP graphite is also nice, boron, magnesium, yeah, all the nuclear craft ingots. Hopefully I'll have those by then, but that's just going to be a bunch of off-camera grind. So thank you so much for watching, but for now though, have a great rest of your day.